Hello, all love area. I wanted to tell you a bedtime story tonight. And it's about a little girl and her journey through life. So, there was once this little girl that was born in Texas, okay? And she had a daddy that had tuberculosis, and he was wheelchair bound and couldn't work, couldn't do much in a wheelchair, unfortunately. And her mom had to work like from the crack of dawn until late at night, the whole day and night. And so she never got to see her mommy much. But this was a long time ago. They did have phones, you know, those old-fashioned ones that we see sometimes in the movies that are like really, really old and such. So she'd get the phone and put the little thing up to her ear and talk in the other one, I guess that was on the wall. I don't know how that worked, you know, because that was before my time. But she'd get on the phone and she'd say something like to her mommy, you know, Daddy wants to have mushroom soup or something like that. And her mommy would tell her exactly how to make the mushroom soup. And then at the end, every time, her mama would say, you can do it. You can do it. And then she'd call her mommy again with getting some instructions on how to do this, how to do the shopping for the family. Think about it. This little girl had to do the shopping, had to do the cleaning, had to do everything because her mama worked nonstop so they could survive. Anyway, believe it or not, this little girl that was very, very independent because she had to be. And she was always told she could do it by her mama. That little girl got the best grades all through school. Yeah, valedictorian. But did she go on to college? You guessed it, she didn't. I guess back then they didn't really have scholarships or any financial aid, so her family could not afford college, that's for sure. And back in those days, the best thing that a woman could do was to marry a man who would take care of her. Okay, so this was the old days. And women were not as independent, although this little woman was, which I'll tell you about a little bit later, because she kept that independent spirit. Anyway, she was so excited because she fell in love with this musician. And so she had 3 children by him and was very happy. And then the war came. He went off to war. And unfortunately, he came back and said he wanted a divorce. Well, this little girl that had grown into a woman with 3 children was, needless to say, devastated. Single motherhood was not common back then. It was very, very uncommon. But she just pulled herself up by her bootstraps and said, well, here we go, kids. What are we going to do? Single mom. So she started in what's called direct sales. Direct sales is where the consumer gets the product directly from a person. So it goes from the manufacturer to a person and then to the consumer directly. And so she was doing direct sales. She was doing quite well. She chose direct sales because she really wanted to care for her children. She didn't want it to be like her mother, where her mother, she never saw the little girl. She didn't want that for her kids, so she chose direct sales so she could work when the children at night, you know, after the kids got their work done, their homework, and got dinner on the table and stuff, and she'd work during the day because back then most women were at home. Anyway, believe it or not, she sold cleaning products. So she did that, and then she did so well that she got to be like a sales director sort of a thing. She, you know, and but it was like a chosen thing. They saw her and she was doing exceptionally well with her sales and so on. And she always was an achiever, right? So anyway, she was doing well, training. She was training other people to do well. And then she kept noticing that the people she was training were promoted above her in that corporate structure. She don't think that was right. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when her assistant was promoted to be her boss. That was it. This amazing woman went into her big old boss, the big boss, and said, "This isn't right. This isn't right." And do you know what he said to her? He said, "You know, so-and-so has a family to support." She said, "I do too. What's the difference?" Anyway, he wouldn't budge. Do you know what she did? She quit. That day she quit. She came home, and of course in tears. It was so unfair, but she was also very, very scared. What was she going to do? Well, she decided to go ahead and take a legal pad of paper and a pen and write down all the things that she would have done differently if she had been in charge. Some of the things were work by the golden rule, which is, of course, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. She thought to have Cinderella prizes, things that people would never buy for themselves, especially women. She knew women quite well. She knew that women, if they got extra money, they would probably spend it on their children or save it. But she thought, no, Cinderella prizes, diamonds, trips, furs, cars, that kind of thing would be something that women would love, but not necessarily purchase for themselves. So pretty smart, huh? She felt that if the people that worked for the company were encouraged to put their faith first, God first, family second, and then work third, that they actually would do better. So she wrote down all these different things she would have done, and she was going to write a book. Well, I love this woman because she looked at that book, or potential book, all the pages she had written, and she said to herself, "Mary Kay," you knew this story was about her, right? "Mary Kay, if you're so smart, why don't you just start a company?" Can you imagine how brave she was? She took her entire life savings, $5,000, because back then they didn't loan to women without a husband's co-signature. So she took all of her savings, which was $5,000, and she invested it in this dream company that she had written on that yellow pad. Yeah, she did. And now you might wonder, well, how come cosmetics? How come skincare? Well, what I didn't tell you was that she had been I did tell you she was in direct sales. Well, one time she was doing a party, and in the kitchen, the ladies were chit-chatting, and she said, "Excuse me, ladies, what are you talking about?" "Oh, Mary Kay, this skincare that," I don't know the gal's name, let's say Polly makes over on her stove is just amazing. Look at our skin. It's so soft and youthful looking. And Mary Kay pulled out her wallet and said, "Give me some." And she said, Mary Kay said that, that her kids even noticed that she started to look younger. So Mary Kay had been using this formulation from this gal who developed it and made it on her stove and sold it in baby food jars to Mary Kay for years and years. So Mary Kay thought, well, I have this dream company for women, but I need to have a commodity. So she thought, I wonder if I could buy the rights to that formulation and start with that. And the family that developed the formulation, the woman, and she got it from, I think it was her grandfather or her father, who was a hide tanner and had amazing young looking hands. So she got that recipe and the ingredients and the amounts and so on. And so that's what she started with. And believe it or not, she started with wigs too. But you know what? Her attorney said, "Mary Kay, you got to stop. Don't you dare invest. This isn't going to work. No way." Businesses like this, especially cosmetics, go in and out in a matter of months. You're not going to make it. Her accountant said, "You cannot pay the women this much money. There's no way you'll stay afloat." Well, she did. And this company, through recession, through inflation, through war, through peace, through everything that's happened over the last almost 60 years, has prospered. And I think I know why. Because she took God as her business partner. Such a woman of faith. Yeah, this company is grounded on principles. She always said her P&L was people and love. I love that, don't you? And of course, we're the all love area. And we are all representatives of that wonderful woman, Mary Kay Ash, who started this company with her life savings and a lot of faith and a lot of love almost 60 years ago. So that's the story. I could go on and on. I know more. Actually, I need to. There's one part that you won't believe. Okay, so she was scheduled to start her company on Friday the 13th of September. She loves to just look in the face of, what's it called, suspicions or something, and say, no, I don't buy that. Well, anyway, so she was going to start then. And she had remarried, and this guy that she remarried was actually really good at finances, right? He was good with financials. So because she was always about people and love, she knew that the financials were important in order to stay in business, right? So she was grateful to have married this guy that said, okay, I'll take care of the financials. But he died of a major heart attack at the breakfast table about a month before she was to open her doors. All the money had been invested already. There was no way out. At the memorial, her kids gathered around her, and you know what they said? Just what she told them and what her mother told her. Mama, you can do it. And she did it. And believe it or not, who was going to take care of the financials? Her 18-year-old son, Richard Rogers. Yep. Turns out God has a sense of humor. He was a financial genius. She didn't know it. At that time, she was like, oh, God, what am I doing? Giving all my money and all that power to my son? He's such a juvenile. But it turned out that he was very good with money. And yeah, we've been debt-free this whole time. It's a great company, and I know you believe that too, but let's never forget where we came from and what we stand for. And as I said before, we're all little Mary Kays. Be the best Mary Kay representative that you can. I know you will.